There's a safety locker inside of me, out of your reach, and I hold the key. It's sealed with layers and layers of irony. What's within, I refuse to see. I hold on, I hold on, I hold on. 'Cause that's the only thing, the one thing that I can control. My grievance is mine, my sadness is mine, my loss is mine. One toss and I'll forever be blind. Toss the key, oh please be kind. In this state of oblivion, my silence goes on. My bearing stays slow, my walls stay strong. I hold on, I hold on, I hold on. 'Cause that's the only thing, one thing that I can control. Grievance is mine, my sadness is mine, my loss is mine.
Sorry. Just being really obsessed about that one game. Um, and really, it's a big, deep rabbit hole. But honestly, it's really worth playing it. I, I sadly didn't play it, and I watched a playthrough, but it's really impacting. Um, it's nothing related to what we're doing today, but hey, the game is Voice Stranger. I recommend it. Give it a try. Uh, whatever. I've been obsessed with this song. And wait, what? Why am wait? Am I disconnected? Really? Okay. For some reason, my preview said that I was disconnected, and I was. Wait, am I still? Am I disconnected or am I not? Please confirm to me. Because this is weird. Why on my screen it says that it okay, it didn't disconnected. That's weird. Okay. Well, okay, hold on. Okay, let's see if this appears on my screen. Uh there we go. Okay. No, we're all good. We're all good. That's weird. That was weird. Yeah, I know. I know that I have unmuted myself. So back into password. Also, by the way, I feel like the song was really fitting to the situation we're going through. So path B. Yeah, I think we're here. Yeah. So proceeding with path B. I was cold. Not in a way that throwing on more clothes could fix, but something chilling at my core. When I opened my eyes, it was the crack of dawn, at least based off the light slowly filtering from the window. That cold feeling was still clung to me, almost like a blanket I couldn't just shrug off. What is the thought of Oswin dead and my friends all being worse for wear after being shown the library? Thanatos was out too. So where was he now? Watching? My throat was dry, my fur tingled, and I got up to have a shower. Not that it did much good. The water was hot, and I sighed out, basking in it. But the feeling lasting only while I was under the water. Collapsing back onto the bed, I thought about shooting Orlando a message, not for any other reason than to use him as a heater. When that sank in, I shied away from my phone out of shame. With a sigh, I resigned to lay on my bed and staring at the ceiling. The cold transitioned into a numbness that covered my entire body, something that felt like I was covered by something matting my fur together. Closing my eyes, I wondered where things stood after last night. But the sudden onset of pain coursing through my head made me yelp, clutching my head. Someone had killed Oswin. That someone had known how to get to his lab, used his knife to stab him in the chest, and closed the door leading there so we couldn't even check the body after I'd found it. If I were more like a Roswell, I would have considered trying to figure out who it was, but the prospect of it being one of my friends was making me sick. The worst part was that without showing them, all they had to go off was my word for it. I was only thankful that they hadn't called my sanity into question over it. The sound that came out of my mouth was feeble, tired, and elongated whine that registered as a sound a wounded animal would make. Sitting upright as I heard a knock on my door, I wonder who it could be at this hour. Come in? Oh, hello. Roswell peeked around the door into my room, almost as if checking I was still in bed or not. Oh, hey. Yeah, hey, He entered the room and closed the door behind him, wandering over to the bed. What's wrong? Me? Oh, nothing. But I just figured I'd see how you were holding up after last night. I'm fine. Right. There was a tense silence between us. I didn't quite register what I'd said until Roswell started talking again. Well, if you're fine, I guess that's that. Sorry. I'll let you keep doing whatever it was that you were doing. Huh? I don't... Catch you at breakfast, Dave. Wait, no. Are you fine? Like, as well? Not really, but it's alright. I'm not going to weigh you down with my troubles if you're basically coping with your own. I went to speak, but he held up a hand quickly to cut me off. Sorry, I should have known that this sort of stuff is maybe a bad thing to bring up first thing in the morning. But you need to talk about it. Sounds like it anyway. Roswell breathed out through his nose, eyes tracing the floor, and his voice held low. I thought I did, but maybe I don't. Sorry, I'm just gonna go. If you're fine, then I guess that's all that matters, and that's all I really came here to check on anyway. Roswell, what's going on with everything? I guess. Maybe we'll find out more today. See if we can break down that door maybe, or something else. I don't know. With Benson gone, I don't know what to do. We can't call the police? Bleh. We can't confirm what you've seen. We have your word for it, but even then, without even being able to open the door, there's not really much the police could do, even if what you saw was real. You don't believe what I saw? I believe you saw something that's worth looking into, but we can't in good faith, go claiming a murder when we can't, you know. He made to reach out for me, but opted not to, shying away to fiddle with his hands. But why would I lie about that? About Dave? I don't know. You've been out of sorts lately. We don't know how to help, and maybe it's just I knew what he was going to say before he got it out of his mouth. It's not in my head. I'm not crazy. Okay, okay. I'm just gonna go. I don't think you're crazy for what it's worth, but there's only so much we can do. With that, he turned and left the room, shutting the door carefully behind him. Alone once again, I sighed out, shifting so I was comfortable in my bed again. I listened to the sound of the house, the creaking walls, and the sound of birds outside my window. More time passed, and I could hear the others moving about, tiredly greeting one another. Slipping out of my room, I wandered downstairs, following in the wake of my friends who seemed to be heading towards the dining room for breakfast. In a daze, I wandered in and collapsed in a chair. Some of my friends sat at the table, and others wandered into the kitchen. Had they become so organized that they just did what needed to be done without needing to talk it out first? What was I meant to be doing? I thought about it and I remembered what Thanatos had said. That it was my job now to figure out what happened to Oswin, who killed him and why. Dave? I almost jumped, my breath catching in the surprise of Dean addressing me. Whoa. Sorry, I didn't, what I mean is, Dave, I just wanted to tell you something. But I can leave you alone. You might need some time to wake up first. Oh, we just looked at each other, tired. Without coffee, my focus was fading in and out. No, it's alright. What did you want to say? Dean breathed in deep, carefully placing a hand on my shoulder and giving it a gentle squeeze. Just that I'm here for you. Huh? I'm here for you. After last night with what we all saw, what we didn't see. Just, I'm here for you. But why? Do I need a reason? The look I gave him was somewhere between hurt and confused. I didn't know how to respond, and it seemed like Dean was just as uncertain. But I care, Dave. Maybe too much, but I care. If you need me, I'm there. He rubbed my shoulders a little more before pulling away. I'll go get the coffee going. I watched as Dean wandered towards the kitchen, leaving only a couple of us at the table. Well, he's a keeper. Better bring me a fucking coffee too. Right, yeah. I looked across to Roswell, wondering why he hadn't come out with anything snarky towards Tyson. Please don't fight again. That's not his job, Ty. Yeah, well, after last night, I could do with a coffee. Although watching this guy smack Dean across the face was a sight to see. He nudged Roswell and got nothing in the way of a reaction. Nothing outside of a grunt and a weak smile. That's why Dean was hurt last night? Yeah, he just snapped and got him in the nose when he bent down to tell him shit was going to be okay. Is it though? Is what? Things going to be okay? Roswell sighed out, scratching his face. I don't really know about that. The idea of someone dead in this house is just... He pulled a face, almost considering how he felt about it before speaking. Well, I'm curious, but if it turns out to be true, I don't really know what we'd be expected to do. Call the cops, obviously. That makes sense, but. But what? You find a dead guy and you get someone else to deal with it. The problem lies in the culprit. Unless the owner of the house died from natural causes, and Benson truly has left, then it was one of us. The words were croaked out, my breath catching as the tightness in my chest took hold. Haas, you're the one that did it. I mean, you're the only other guy that even knows about the passage. Or the secret passage. The others started filing in from the kitchen, with Dean coming by and gently sending a mug of coffee down before sitting down next to me. Sal and Orlando looked like a mess, with Haas not looking much better. Orlando's hands trembled as he clutched his mug of tea, sitting up next to Sal while his eyes darted around the room. What happens now? Well, there's no chance we can just forget what happened, can we? Continued vacation as if it was all just. He stole a glance at me before looking back to Orlando. We don't even know he's dead. I mean, for all we know, he's just fine, right? But he wasn't. I knew that from the fact the smell was still burned into my nose, that Thanatos was watching us last night, and that the door I was certain I'd left open was now closed. There was no way a rat could close a door that heavy, so it had to be one of us sitting at the table right now. There's not much we can do about it unless we can open that door. I'll see if I can find anything in the way of contacting Benson and see what he thinks about this. Benson? I guess he'd be coming home to an empty house after his vacation if, well, you know. I think I was speaking before I realized it. My voice was quiet, and I felt numb. Probably the right thing to do. At the very least, he'd know how to open the door so we can check, right? It seems like the right thing to do. At the very least, he'd have the right to know. This is his home, and if his master is dead, then... We were all quiet, and I tuned out further by focusing on the coffee Dean had brought me. The thought of what was to happen next terrified me. If Benson wasn't around then, I'd have to accuse someone. Well, I guess I'll go searching now. You're not going to eat? I'm not hungry. Not right now. Roswell, would you mind giving me a hand when you're done? He rose quietly, walking away from the table in a measured pace. He looked to Roswell, who seemed just as confused as the rest of us, but gulped down what he had left and followed suit. Maybe I should do something too, to keep my mind busy. Like what? I don't know yet. I'll think of something. I'm also in that boat, so guess you, me, and Tyson can find something to watch. See if we can't find something to distract the three of us. Instinctively, I looked to Dean, now the only one not accounted for. What about you, Dean? What's your plan? He seemed to think it over, leaning back in his chair before looking to me. No plan. Just whatever you need me for. What do you mean? Like I said before, I'm here for you. No more leaving you behind if you're lonely and wanting someone around. But if you don't want me around, that's okay too. Is it really? I looked to Tyson, who was already getting up from the table, heading towards the kitchen. Haas and Orlando were close behind. I'd rather you not push me away if you're pushing everyone else away too, but I'll respect you needing some space. Dean, I'm scared that what happened. Sighing out, I drank deeply from my coffee, setting it back down on the table empty. What if it was one of us? Am I friends with a murderer, Dean? Now hold on. Let's not jump the gun on this. Do you really think it's one of us? Or that he's even dead? I know he is. I just can't prove it. Which means I think I understand. But that doesn't mean I know what I should do next. My Do you really do you think I did it? What? He reached out to touch me and I flinched. And the moment I did, he pulled away. I don't know. Well, I don't think there's anything I can do to really convince you otherwise, is there? If he turns up dead, then Dean, I can trust you, right? I don't have to suspect you of killing anyone, right? My voice cracked and I turned to him suddenly. I searched his face for any trace of anything that hinted that he would be hiding anything about what I knew. Of course you don't. This time, when he reached out, he followed through, cupping my cheek with his hand. It was warm, bringing some form of comfort to what I was feeling, but I quivered all the same. I'm on your side, I swear. Only thing that changed that is if you gave me reason to think that you'd want to bring harm to me. Wait, what? He pulled his hand away carefully, running his hand down his neck to my shoulder, then down the length of my arm to take my hand. Even then, I don't have it in me to just turn on you without talking it out first. I owe you that much to hear your side before making any calls. Goes for anyone, really. Really? Anyone? Well, sure. Seems like the only decent thing to do to not judge a stranger without hearing them out first. Although, Dean scratched the back of his neck, sighing out. He does look. He is acting suspicious. Honestly, like, usually he's quite confident, right? Like, he's not the one to hesitate, so there's something odd. Didn't exactly offer to that to Tyson, so guess I'm a little bit of a hypocrite when it comes to certain things or people. Right, well, okay. We sat in silence for a few more moments before he broke the quiet with a question, barely uttered above a whisper. Are you scared of me? My gaze dipped down, and I breathed in to reply, mouth parted ready to respond, but I just didn't know. Dean shifted uncomfortably in his seat, sighing out. Well, alright. I don't blame you for being unsure of everything given last night and all. Just, if you decide you need me, I'll be around. As he got up, he leaned forward and placed a gentle kiss on my forehead as I kept my head low. The gesture made me seize up, a gesture from something I nearly forgotten. I watched as Dean strolled away, hands in his pocket, with a slump in his step. If I had to guess, he was upset, but putting on a brave front. Either way, I got what I wanted, or at least what I thought I wanted. I was alone, free to conduct my investigation or to wallow in my sadness and stress over things? I think it's typo, over things I had no idea on how to solve. When I thought about where my sadness stemmed from, there was only one. There was only really one place, a room that I barely lingered in. Lingered in if I didn't need to. It's been that way for, well, it was the room where I was told what had happened. Most of the time when I went for a walk, it was just to get out of the house, just down the street and rarely in the wilderness like this. Dean had driven me out to a big garden before we'd walked around together. That was just something to do, right? Then there was Tyson and the occasional trips down to the beach. It had a lot of great memories despite getting told constantly to not eat ice creams inside the car. I looked around at the trees before glancing back at the house. If I wandered further in, maybe I could have some alone time, right? There was a risk for sure, much like with what happened with Roswell. I could end up out here, but was that really bad? Was spending a night out in the woods all that bad? Jack is in the woods. Don't. If I wasn't around, I couldn't be hurt by what the vault showed me. I wouldn't have to look at my friends looking at me funny. Was it pity? Disappointment? I didn't really know. Trudging into the forest, I left them all behind. That's not gonna end well. That's not gonna end well. I could hear the sound of running water after a while of walking. I couldn't say just how long I'd been walking, but eventually I arrived at a river. Bleh. The water was clear, the sound of it oddly calming and taking the edge off. Someone had mentioned this. At the moment, I couldn't remember who exactly told me about it. Taking a look around seems as if I was totally alone. No fish in the river, no sounds of other animals or birds or anyone else nearby. Are you sure? It felt like I was the last one standing as I stood at the edge of the water, looking down into my reflection. Without the choking smell of chlorine, I sighed out and looked at the hyena staring back at me. My hands traced my cheeks, across my underbite to my nose. The way the water rippled made me squint to make out the details. Shy of the fur color, I was the spitting image of my dad. It was a legacy that I wasn't sure I liked now. Looking at myself in the mirror was a harsh reminder of him gone, right down to being unable to smile at my reflection. I thought about if he was watching over me, and what hope that sentiment meant felt more like a curse weighing me down, not through anyone else's fault but my own. Looking up the river, it winded through the trees, cascading over a cliff off in the distance and further on. Where did the river start? Was there anything else out there? Wandering upstream, I figured I'd see where it went. Climbing up a steep incline near the waterfall, I dusted myself off and looked around for anything else that might have looked different. From what I could tell, this clearing by the river seemed to be a makeshift campsite. I wonder. There was a ring of stones placed somewhat in the middle of the clearing, with a large log sitting nearby, acting as a bench. Taking a seat, I looked around. You probably shouldn't linger around this makeshift campsite. It seemed nice enough, but a crisp breeze made me realize just how cold it could get out here late at night. I closed my eye. No, he's gonna die. Dave is gonna die. Closed my eyes and breathed in deep, the fresh air helping clear my head a little bit. But with a clear mind, thoughts came rushing in to fill the space, making me think of home. Come on, sport. Where are we going? Dad puffed out his chest, hands on his hips proudly. Don't want an adventure with your old man? Always, Dad. Good. Then buckle up because we're gonna get something awesome to eat when we get there. Is Mom coming? Coming? Not this time, bud. She's at work. It almost seems like she never wants to come out with us anymore. I sighed, hopping into the car and closed the door before buckling myself in. Dad tapped on the window, indicating for me to lower it. Quite a long face, bucko. Fidgeting in my chair, I tried to keep my eyes anywhere than his as he stuck his head through the window, likely to look at me properly, fishing for an answer. No reason, I guess. Seemed like there might be one. Won't get mad at me, right? No matter what. So what? So what got you so? Yeah. So what's got you down? Mom still loves me too, right? What? It was enough to make him recoil and hit his head on the roof of the car as he pulled back in shock. What would make you think that? She's barely home, and I don't really remember the last time she smiled at me. Did I do something wrong? Don't you ever think we don't love you, David. You did nothing wrong, I promise. He had his serious tone going, staring me down. I'm sorry. Dad sighed out, running his hands through his fur before wandering around the car and jumping in the driver's seat and buckling himself in. We didn't leave the driveway. Instead, his fingers just drummed on the steering wheel. It was the only sound we had as he didn't even start at the car. And when he stopped to look, he stopped, I turned to look at him. He just smiled at me. Maybe it was a brave face or something else, I couldn't say. I remembered what he said next, or at least the individual words, but for the life of me I couldn't remember specifically how it sounded. I love you. As I opened my eyes, the campsite came back into view. The world around me hadn't changed outside the faint sound of nature now being something I was more aware of. Had it all just been drowned out as I lost myself in my head, or? In a daze, my eyes looked to the water as I sat on the log, watching the flow steadily downstream. I wonder what would happen if okay, please, Dave, don't. If this was the place I died, I wonder if it would hurt, or if some miracle would come along and stop it from happening. Don't. I wondered why the idea didn't scare me as much as it probably should have. Was I a coward? Selfish? Probably. Of all the places to choose, at least here was peaceful. It would solve all my problems in one go. My sadness, my stress, and guilt. I'd be able to see Dad again, hopefully. Please don't. Before I knew it, I was standing up and slowly walking towards the water's edge. My feet felt heavy, but my chest felt light. I wasn't having trouble breathing, but each breath rattled out of my barely parted mouth. Step by step, I got closer, not breaking stride once my eyes locked on a spot somewhere in the middle of the river. Before I could second guess I was going to follow through on falling into the water, I stepped on something solid but smooth. Enough to make me look down to see what it was. What's... I looked at what I'd picked up, rolling over my hand. A thick glass syringe with its needle capped off by some sort of plastic thing at the end. Had it been used? Why was it out here? In the sunlight, I caught the glint of something half buried underneath some fallen leaves, and now distracted from what I was originally doing, I went to investigate. Kneeling down, I picked up what that was too, assuming another needle, but instead it was a bottle. Small, unassuming outside the label it had neatly printed on its front. Crypt. Sorry, I just need to clean my glasses. There's a spot on my glass that is bothering me. Okay. The first word was long, and I wasn't sure I knew exactly how to pronounce it. But the second word I'd heard before, some sort of illness that Mom had mentioned once, I think. With an item in each hand, I looked between the two. The bottle was empty, with the foil seal on the top punctured. The needle, while capped, still had what looked to be condensation inside. A few moments later, I yelped and quickly dropped both, drawing conclusion I didn't quite want to believe. Did someone inject themselves here? Or did someone else inject another person? The only person I knew to be out here was Roswell. But that was following me. Was that out here? Could have just been part of this. I picked both up and put them into my pocket carefully. It helped me remind me to ask Roswell about it later, if he knew anything about it. Now that I'd found something out where he spent the night. My mind raced with what it all meant as I looked around again. My resolve and focus on going into the river was shot and likely for the better, thank God. But instead, it was replaced with curiosity, and I headed upstream. I lost track of how long I walked, but I was in no hurry, taking occasional breaks to look about the trees. Something gave me the impression that I was being watched. Yeah, likely by Jack and his bear. Before me, sitting along the water's edge, was a rundown mill, moss and vines seeming to have claimed the place after many years of no use. Just like before, this place seemed quiet and serene. I would have said that it felt like it was truly alone if the feeling that I was being watched didn't get stronger the longer I stood out in the open. Is anyone there? Carefully looking around, I called out quietly. Silence. Nothing but silence to answer my question. I didn't really want to go inside the mill. After all, who knows what could have been in there, or if I wouldn't accidentally step in on a loose floor panel and get trapped. It was a reminder that I didn't tell anyone where I was going, but I only had myself to blame. I couldn't get angry about them not coming to save me because I didn't give them the chance. Not only that, but when I got back, I had no excuse for them to be mad at me for being a hypocrite yet again. I slumped my shoulders and sighed, leaning up against one of the beams, holding up a throw. Wait, a throw? Above. Braced against something I whined out, my troubles making me hesitate in turning back now. Please don't. My ears perked at the sound of a twig snapping, and I looked around, eyes darting around the trees for its source, and I heard it again. Out in the open, the sound echoed around me, and it was hard to place exactly where it had come from. Being out in the open left me exposed, and I felt it now, deciding that heading inside might not be the worst idea, all things considered. That is the worst idea ever, Dave. What are you doing? Inside the mill was dirty, and much like the outside, nature had claimed most of it. Walls were cracked, but the stonework held together despite the vines growing through it a hole in one of the walls. Looking behind me to see if I was being followed, I ducked behind the doorway to try and stay out of sight. Not that it helped, but I'd already been spotted. Reaching inside my pocket, I held onto the syringe, reminding myself that I had something in the way of a weapon, just in case things went sour. Barely a weapon, but Didn't look like there was any abandoned tools nearby that would make for a better option anyway. I heard another twig snap, followed by someone calling out, "Hello? Someone around out there?" The voice had a tinge of amusement to it, somewhat squeaky too, so I could rule it out being any of my friends. Even Oswin and Benson didn't have a voice that matched that. Peering around the corner, I couldn't see anything. No sign of whoever it was that was also out there. They kept calling, asking where I was hiding, but it seems as if they weren't making any effort to get closer. I weighed up, heading further into the mill in an effort to hide, as leaving would just let whoever was calling out find me, right? It grew colder as I ventured further in, and it seemed like I was heading more underground too. The air was stale down here, and there were half-broken slabs of concrete making up the flooring. Large pipes and machines seemed to be everywhere, all powered by the water wheel outside. Or if it was powered by anything else, I couldn't see a generator. There was something about this place that made me feel odd. The ceiling was high up above. Jagged pieces of metal jutted out at odd angles from the ceiling from where they'd rusted and fallen apart over time. How deep does this place go underground? What was it for? Lumber? Off to the side seemed to be a chute for something to drop down from the level above onto a conveyor belt that ran along one side of the wall. At the end was a saw blade, ready to cut whatever was sent down the path to it. There was something about this place that I couldn't quite place. It wasn't sadness, but I felt a feeling of unease that came from within. Familiar in a way, but I couldn't place how. Hello. There was that voice again, smug and amused as before, but now closer. The voice echoed through the building, and I backed up against one of the large metal chambers that dotted the room I was in. Footsteps, light, but somewhat clumsy maybe. That wasn't what struck out of me. As good as my nose was, I couldn't smell them at all. Nothing to distinguish who they could be or anything. Was it because of the air in here? Straining my ears, I listened as they moved around, searching for me. They could have been friendly for all I knew. No, they are not friendly. But something about it this just seemed like bad news. Their footsteps sound like they got closer before stopping entirely. Gripping the syringe tightly, I waited and waited. I let out a breath that I didn't realize I'd been holding. Figure out that I must have just misheard them leaving. Boo. The shock made me fall over and I hit my head hard as I landed, passing out. Ow. When I came to, I was back outside. It seemed darker, and I wasn't sure exactly how long I'd been out for. I was only half certain of what I'd seen right before falling over and sat up, groaning. Quickly checking my pockets, it seems as though I had everything still, much to my relief. My head was still spinning, but I seemed unharmed outside my tumble, and I let myself properly get my bearings. Whoever that I was, I, yeah, whoever that was I ran into didn't seem to be around right now. I wobbled onto my feet as I stood. Ugh, how late is it? About 6. Whoa! I fell over again, landing on my rear and yelping as I nursed my tail. What, you got for curfew? No, I mean, who, where, oh, scare ya? Not gonna laugh on me, are ya? I stare at the hare, unsure of what to make of things. Yeesh, watching you has been a hoot. But didn't think you'd be so flighty. Blah. More on the edge of any of the game out there. Of any of the game out here, that's for sure. The game? Animals? Got it in one. Didn't expect a hyena out here though. He gestured wide with his arms briefly before staring at me some more. What's your name, kid? Dave. And what's a hyena like yourself doing this far out, hmm? Just on a walk, I guess. A walk on this mountain. Yeah. The hare whistled, looking around. Must be a long walk, given you look like a city folk. Well, no, I'm. The hare stared at me some more, waiting. Well, you can just walk here from the city. My guess is you're one of the Hammond. My guess is you're one of them Hammond kids. Me? No, I'm just staying there, I guess. His attitude seemed to shift. Disappointed, maybe. It was hard to tell. Just a guess. Shame. Shame how? Well, getting in good with rich, rich folk is never a bad thing. Can't have one of their guests lost out in the woods now, can we? I'm not that lost, mister. Oh, me? I'm nobody, but call me Jack. Jack? Okay. That smile he wore felt off somehow. So much that when I smiled back, I felt like I'd done something wrong. Well then, Dave, you had a bit of a fall inside the mill, so I brought you out here. Only because you snuck up on me. Really now? Didn't think you'd scare so easy when you're out here by yourself. Didn't think a place as big as the Hammonds would host only one guest at a time either. Oh, it's not just me. Please, Dave, stop sharing information with this guy. Whose family of hyenas is visiting? Well, I imagine that house be full of laughs then. No, no, it's just me and some friends. Friends? It was almost as if the concept was foreign to him, with how thoughtful he seemed to be after echoing what I'd said. Hmm, sounds fun. It's been something like that. You kidding? A whole mansion and you ain't having fun? I groaned and slumped on the spot. There's just been a lot going back at the house. I probably shouldn't get into it. No, and why's that? You know the house, right? I mean, of course you do, because you know the name of the person that owns it, so. Oh, yeah, plenty of stories about that place. There are stories? Sure is. The recluse lies there now with his butler, smart as a whip, and occasionally gets a visitor every now and again. Uh, Dave is conversing with Jack for some reason. I don't know why Dave is doing that. That's not much of a story. Well, that's not the story. The story is he's got a machine in his basement. You wouldn't happen to have it seen it given you're living there, have you? Oh, you mean I caught myself before I said anything more, noticing Jack's eyes light up the moment I trailed off. So it does exist. Well, that's nice to hear given what I know about it. You've heard about it too? I've been told about it, sure. Hard not to remember talk of a time machine someone's built. It wasn't a machine, was it? Is that why the door hadn't opened? Was Oswin just lying about it? With how funny Jack was being, I was leaning towards believing what Oswin had said about it. Well, maybe I should see if I could get it working when I'm back at the house next. If you ever get there. What? Do you know your way back? Reckon you're stuck without a guide. Oh, I'm sure I could figure it out. I'll just head back down the river until I find something familiar and then wander back from there. River doesn't go anywhere near the house. You'd end up getting into a waterfall at a sheer cliff before you get back to the city too. It's not that bad, is it? You're welcome to find out. What about you? Why are you even out here? Just hunting. After all, these are some big mountains and there's nothing like being out where no one else is around to bother you. I'm sorry if I bothered you, then. I just figured the mill was something neat to look at. No bother. Wondered who was wandering around out here. You sure you're fine to be heading on back up to the house by yourself? Yeah, I'll be fine, thanks. Something wasn't right. Stranger danger was a thing that I'd been taught as a kid. It didn't really sink in until now as to what that had meant. I was getting an off feeling about Jack, something about how he moved, talked, or even stood there as time went by. You don't know your way back, Dave. I'll figure it out. You hit your head pretty hard, Dave. Maybe I should take you back to where I'm staying so you can rest. No, I'm good, really. I took a couple steps back, shooting him a wry smile. It wasn't at all convincing, but I didn't want to turn my back to him either. Do you at least want me to point you in the right direction? You know where the house is? Generally, a general location, sure. Wouldn't be much of a hunter if I couldn't navigate this forest now, would I? Without me asking, he pointed in a direction away from the river, though through the trees. Head that way. Terrain might make it a little harder, but that's the direction the house is in. Got a long walk ahead of you, though. I chanced to look in the direction he pointed out before looking back at him. Thanks. Don't worry about it. I'm just gonna head on back to my little hidey hole, I think. Safe travels, Dave. Oh god. I watched as he turned on heel and wandered off, disappearing out of sight in the opposite direction to where I was headed. Sighing out, I took a longer look to where I needed to go. Jack right of it in wait had the right of it in that I had no idea where I really was. Best I could do is head down the river until I find a camp and go from there, right? Rather than cutting through the trees, I figured I'd wander back down the river and keep in mind the direction that he pointed out to me. I didn't really want to have a difficult walk ahead of me if I could avoid it. My stomach rumbled, now feeling a little hungry. It's what I got for not eating almost 2 days now. Oh god, he's out for two. Oh no, he was just not eating. Little I just wasn't cutting it anymore. I wonder what's for dinner. I sat down on the log and to catch my breath, knowing I still had a while left to go before I got back to the house. My mind wandered back to those at the house, and it started to sink in how silly I had been just leaving like I did. They were probably worried, and the guilt returned to rid me of my appetite. Pulling out the needle and the bottle, I gave them a look over, considering I was where I'd found them. The needle you could probably buy just about anywhere, but the bottle is what worried me. It didn't seem likely that this was just something you could pick up at the pharmacy. They were meant to sell bottles of medicine rather than bottles of diseases, after all. What seemed strange to me though was why. If you were going to inject yourself with anything, why not medicine? Why a poison? Is he so goddamn oblivious? Or even if you weren't going to inject yourself, but try to inject someone you snuck up on, why not something more dangerous? Was the idea to pass this off as medicine and hope that they didn't notice? Shaking my head, I put them back in my pocket. I just have to figure it out after I got back to the house. I looked up at the trees, noticing that I was quickly losing light. I'd need to hurry if I was going to make it back to the house before it was completely dark. It was dark enough already that it was no wonder Roswell got stuck out there. Thinking back to when he'd been out of the left out there, I wondered if it was better just to stay here for the night. Not that I really wanted to, but I also didn't want to get lost in the woods. I noticed some mushrooms growing nearby and waited up whether or not that was an option for dinner if I could figure out if they were safe. But if they weren't safe and I had no way of knowing, I could just as easily poison myself and getting back to the house all harder if not impossible. Sighing out, I then looked to the river. I could fish maybe just find a sharp enough stick and try to what they did on the television, but I could barely make out anything under the water to even know where to aim. I cradled my chin in my hands and thought it over with a sigh. Wait here or try to stumble through the woods in the dark and to try to get back home? The sound of a twig snapping nearby made me look up. Jack reappeared, approaching slowly. Still out there? Didn't I point it out the way back? You did, but you said difficult terrain. He chuckled, rolling his shoulders. Not able to deal with difficult terrain, huh? Good to know. You know, I was wondering what you meant by that. Do you mean rocks or cliffs or does it matter? Didn't end up going that way. I guess not. He got closer, resting his foot on the log and leaning down to look at me. I leaned back away from him as he did so, reflexively going to the needle I concealed in my pocket. Planning on camping out here? Not a bad spot. I haven't decided yet. I thought you went the other way. Why are you downstream? Well, you know me. I guess I just got lost. He chuckled low while keeping his eyes on me, inching closer still. For me, I shifted a little further back and he seemed to get the message. You came out here all alone, didn't bring anything for supplies. What are you, an idiot? That's not very nice. Wow. No, it's not. But who the fuck cares anyway? Well, yeah, well, I care. Leave me alone. Come on now, Dave. Haven't you heard about the kindness of strangers? Maybe you should know. You should come back with me to my shelter and stay the night. You can tell me all about your friends and what's got you down with that house you're staying at. I stood, and for a moment it almost seemed like Jack's expression shifted more towards a smug satisfaction. But then it faded away as soon as after it was clear I wasn't intending to follow him anywhere. I'm gonna head back now. Thanks for getting me out of the mill, I guess. In a flash, he'd moved forward, grabbing me by the arm. I don't do anything for free. You owe me. Hey, let me go. Not just yet, Dave. I know something you can pay me back with. There's a thing I want to know. You met the guy that owns the place, right? I spoke without thinking, trying to pull up my arm away from him was my priority. Oswin Hammond? Right as I pulled, he let me go, letting me land on my back on the ground. Oh, good. That makes things easier. What about his butler? He's still kicking? Um, he left on vacation? Why? Please, Dave, you're so goddamn stupid. Jack's ears twitched briefly and he grinned with glee. He's gone. Well, uh, that's gonna make the pay sweeter. Easiest money the easiest money I'll ever earn. I don't understand what you. How is Dave still not aware that this guy is not good? Wow, Dave, you're oblivious to no end. I got up to my feet, edging away from Jack further. There was no point in being subtle about it now. I wanted to get away. All the while, he just grinned, looming over me. What I mean is that I've been out here a week bored out of my mind and I want to have a little fun. So get to running, Dave. Let's play tag. The moment I saw the knife, I ran. I didn't need to stick around to wonder what he was intending on doing with it. I had no idea where I was going. I could barely see it and took everything I had to stop myself from tripping over the many roots that lined the forest floor. How I wished that I was more fit. My heart was pounding my chest and my lungs felt that they were on fire. It was a wonder that I hadn't collapsed from exhaustion. I felt a chill run my spine as I heard Jack somewhere behind me, calling out in a sing-song sort of tone. Please run as fast as you can. It was a fear that I hadn't felt before, cold and dark somewhere deep down that it seemed to keep me moving forward. It was different from the cliff and the river. It was different from back home. It was different from thinking about my friends. I wasn't sure if that was a good idea or bad thing, or good or bad thing. Darkness of the forest seemed to ease up. Maybe I was getting used to it, or maybe being chased with my life on the line was making things easier. Not that I had any way of knowing which way I was going. Gonna have to do better than that, Dave. I yelped as I rounded a tree and dove around Jack as he swiped lazily with his knife. I could feel the sting of it shear some of the fur off my ears, and I continued on. Keep running. Playtime isn't over yet. With one hand on my ear and the other propelling myself forward, I struggled to find my way. It all looked the same. The woods outside my breathing was quiet. But then I knew where to go. I didn't see it, but I could smell it. Cherry pie. I knew that smell. Orlando must have baked something to lead me back to the house. What guilt I would have felt about not doing the same thing for Roswell would need to wait. All I had to do was to follow my nose, and I'd be safe. I'd be with my friends. It wasn't home, but it'd do. Jack was following me though. Every moment I had to stop to take a breath. I could hear him somewhere behind me, approaching. He wasn't running like I was, but pacing himself. Maybe his stamina was just better. Then through the trees I could see the soft glow of lights. The smell of pie was growing stronger too. There, I'm there. I looked behind me and there was Jack, still with the knife and gaining speed, his white fur sticking out in the darkness of the night like a ghost. Not there yet. Whining, I tried to lose him as the last bit through the trees, but almost choked as he grabbed the back of my shirt, pulling me back towards him and into a tree. I whined. I clutched my chest. The house was right there. And as I turned to look, I felt the tip of Jack's knife at my throat. I closed my eyes. What else was there to do? It'd be over soon, hopefully. From how hard I was running, I could barely form words. It wasn't much of an upside, but at least they'd be able to find my body easily. The sound of a gunshot almost made us both jump, and just as quickly as I'd realized what had happened, I fell to the ground, covering my head. Cowering on the ground, I heard my assailant flee into the forest again. Despite being so close to the house, I didn't feel so good. I didn't feel safe. Instead, I felt sick, like I was able to pass out, but something was keeping me conscious. I couldn't keep my thoughts clear. My tongue tangled, and my inability to pull myself together was making me hyperventilate. The adrenaline was nice while I was running away, but now I could barely breathe as I clutched my chest. Dave. Benson. Benson was back, but I wasn't able to greet him. My hands scrambled over my front, desperately trying to figure out if the gunshot I heard hit me. Let's get you inside. The hair's gone. Dave. I caught the faint whiff of Dean and heard him rush over, each footfall landing heavy until he came to stop in front of me. Benson? You shot him. Why are you even here? I assure you, he's fine. He wasn't my target, and while it was a miracle that I'd missed, your friend is unharmed. The sound I made sounded deathly, a hoarse gasp of hair as I clung to the earth. He doesn't look fine. Dean, did you find him? The fuck did you do? Help. We need to get him inside. I'll explain what I can once he's sorted out. By the way, are we still in Path B? Which we should be still in Path B. Yeah, we are still in Path B, okay. I remember Dean picking me up, and the moment he did, I clung to him desperately. We went inside and stopped in the foyer so Dean could sit me down on the stairs before I made out Tyson running upstairs. He was gonna. I was shaking, and I felt flashes of hot and cold as the scenario played out over my head, over my mind. My heart didn't stop racing, and it was starting to hurt. My vision was blurry from how hard it was to breathe. I don't, and Benson clamps his head down hard on my shoulder to steady my shaking. But it was so hard to focus, and I could barely make out his features. Did he harm you? Where did he come from? The hell did you go, Dave? The words couldn't come out and I babbled, pushing myself up to my feet and almost slipping on the stairs. I wanted to apologize, but the words couldn't come. If anything, the thought of dying, of getting killed, followed by the sound of gunfire, had shattered what little I had left as mental strength in keeping things together. If we're not careful, he's going to go in cardiac arrest. I shut my eyes, gasping for air as my chest tightened. Was this what happened? What was happening? A heart attack? The sound of rattling caught my ear as heavy footsteps ran down the stairs behind me. Dave, look at me. You're going to be okay. A whine escaped my mouth as I went to reply, but I was roughly grabbed and pulled back. A hand clasped over my mouth and another carefully at my neck rubbing. The sensation making me swallow the moment I realized that something had been slipped to me. Hey, it's alright. I looked to Benson, eyes wide in alarm, but I felt strange, floating in a sense, and things started to grow more blurry. With the hand over my mouth, I couldn't ask what was happening or what I'd swallowed, but the way Tyson was talking made me drowsy. Before realized it, I'd blacked out in Ty's arms to the sounds of Dean yelling at him for something. But if I was being honest, I was just happy that everything stopped. Wait, did he just die? Let whatever happens happen. Oh no. Okay, it still continues. That is, yeah. I told you that path B is very pretty long. We're on day 14. If I had to describe it, it felt like falling, not through air or through water, but something in between. Maybe like jelly. And then Hut say wide and long face. Priceless, right? Huh? What? My hands scrambled over my front, my breath picking up. Where was I? What happened? You know, because he was a horse. Not that. I mean, because horses have long faces. Okay, Dad, it's not the time for that. No, Dad, stop. What did I do? I thought you'd like the joke. I I was in the woods. Right, and Jack was there. Yeah. And what else, Dave? Dad, what? Where are we? Oh, you know me. Always getting lost. I started to back away, but my feet felt like they were encased in cement. Not only that, but each step felt as though I wasn't really touching the ground, slipping somehow. Never get lost. Don't I? Oh, guess that there goes that cover. He began to convulse, body riding and his arms moving at unnatural angles until he fell still. You. Hello, Dave. Shall we pick up where we left off? I started pulling on my ears, feeling sick. I could feel my heart rate pick up, although something was wrong. It felt numb somehow, like it wanted to beat faster, but something was stopping it. What did I know though was that it hurt. Leave me alone. Not gonna run this time. Think Benson is going to come save you? This isn't real. I made it back. Did you? You wanted to die before. Why not now? A wave of guilt washed over me when I couldn't think of an answer. Jack approached, the knife almost disappearing from his hand as he approached. First the cliff by the road, then the river. Maybe you stuck around because you hoped something bad would happen. No, I just thought, what? That some loser in the woods actually needed your help? Well, yeah, I can be plenty helpful. Like your dad? Oh, yeah, real helpful like your dead dad, Dave. My god, he's getting big trauma. When I looked around, I was sitting on the sofa while Jack looked around the room as if he knew the place. Be honest with yourself, Dave. Your dad was the hero, the police officer. Your mother, an accomplished surgeon. But you, a child. I'm more than that, aren't I? Are you? Compared to your friends, you're nothing special. Even Tyson has more going for him, and he dropped out of school. I've got to be. And what if you can't? What if I can't? Maybe you're better off dead. Yeah. No, Dave, please not. Please don't. Maybe I'm better off dead. That's it, Dave. It'll be all over soon. That makes me think like literally like the song Rolling Girl. It's literally the same thing as I probably shouldn't like say it's a very sensitive subject, I know. Dave needs his friends. I lifted my head to look at him, and he approached with me with that knife. I was frozen to the spot, and I could feel something prickling at my neck. It felt so natural, my breath picking up, along with it with my heartbeat. As I closed my eyes and just waited for Jack to do what he almost did in the forest. Some part deep down expected a gunshot, but I knew that it wouldn't come. Just give up, Dave. Let whatever happens, happen. I sat up suddenly in bed. My hand went to my chest, and I was already breathing hard. It felt hot, and and what I hoped was just sweaty as my eyes darted about the room. Where was I? What happened? What time was it? My mind was racing with what happened in the forest, how I'd gotten back if barely, and what would have happened if I'd been only a little slower. I gulped, hand going back to my neck where I could still feel the very edge of Jack's knife threatening my throat. As if my fingers tightened around my neck, I wheezed in panic for what I'd only just avoided. Everything I just seen was a dream, or at least I hoped so. Struggling to piece together what happened together to end up in my room, the door opened. Benson. I thought I saw him, but why was he here? What happened to the vacation? And did he know about Oswin? My stomach sank as he came over to my bed, his hands clasped neatly behind his back, much like he normally stood, although something about his demeanor was different. Standing before the bed, our eyes locked, and he seemed to search me for an answer without saying anything. I barely had an idea of the question before he sighed out. Some mess we found ourselves in now, right, my boy? I shuffled to the side a little to let him take a seat down on the bed. And in what little light was afforded to me in the room, with the curtains closed, I could I could see he looked ragged and tired. Give everyone a scare, myself included. I'm just thankful I was, shall we say, around. Eyeing him carefully, I wasn't sure if I should ask, or even if I could, my God, I wanted to. You've slept the night away, and just as well. You remember anything of last night? My gaze dipped away for all of a second before the memories came flooding back. The mill, the river, Jack, the gunshot, all of it drawing a panicked whine from my throat, which turned quickly into a coughing fit. I thought as much. Thought as much. Such an ordeal would likely stick with you for a while. If what your friends did wasn't potentially something that saved your life, I would have had choice words with them about drugging you so readily. I barely remembered that part with everything else going on. I remembered Dean trying to calm me down and then Ty shoving something down my throat and making me swallow it. Balling up the bed sheets in my fist, I bared my teeth. Your distress is understandable, and trust that while I held back for the most part, distaste in what they did was voiced. That made me relax a little, but I was going to share some choice words of my own when I knew exactly what I wanted to say. Granted, it was mostly Roswell that was fairly vocal about it all. Him and Orlando, actually. I frowned, tilting my head curious. The air of formality in how he addressed us was gone, and it felt odd. I'm sure you have many questions, Dave. Nodding slowly, he sighed out, shaking his head. Well, immediately, you'll be pleased to know it's mid-morning, and less pleased to know that there's no headway has been made towards identifying your assailant. Right then and there, I started to feel sick again, but he continued. Your friends are accounted for and mostly concerned for your well-being, especially after they found what you had stashed in your pockets. By instinct, my hands went to where my hoodie pocket would be, it, but I must have it taken from me when I was put in bed. I looked to Benson, noticing a sadness behind his otherwise stiff expression. I didn't want to tell him, but I felt I had to. Instead, he reached out and he carefully placed a hand on my shoulder. "It's all right, my boy. I I know Master Oswin is no longer with us." He pulled his hand away, and I whined pitifully. I couldn't stop Oswin from dying, and it was likely my fault entirely he was dead. With no master to serve, I'm just a tad out of sorts. But I do have orders to keep you all safe. It's what Oswin asked me the day he sent me away. Benson scratched his chin, sighing out. That boy even had a young lad always thought he knew better. In all these years, he didn't learn that I wasn't prone to doing what he wanted unless that it was in his best interest. Alas, I let my guard down for a second, and I fell him the worst ways. Reaching out, I took his hand. While I was still feeling that sickening traveling between my chest and stomach, I didn't want him to feeling as if he was alone in this. It's all right, Dave. The proper time to grieve will proper come, but I appreciate the gesture. You should get some more rest. When you resurface, chances are your friends will want to question you thoroughly despite their good intentions. For now, enjoy what peace you can find. Okay. It hurt to talk, and even just two syllables seemed to be too much. I lay back down, and Benson eased himself off the bed, heading towards the door. Sleep well, Dave. I hope what rest you can find is what you need. He shot me one last smile before leaving the room, and I rolled over to get comfortable. At some point, I blacked out again, swimming in my thoughts. Had the drug really had been that potent, or I was that exhausted I couldn't tell anymore. It was almost like I was floating, sinking down into an inky black, like it was an ocean meant only for me. My street came into view, just as I remembered it. There wasn't really any issue with me going outside to play growing up. I liked outside for the most part. Next door, what used to be Roswell's house was still there, although I never went inside. It was always easier to have him come inside, given how often Dad was around to make sure we stayed out of trouble. Speaking of, Tyson's house was several doors down and looked much the same after many years. Tyson had changed, but his house sure hadn't. Orlando had come over. Huss had two, if not only one, if only once. Sal was probably the only one that hadn't been over. Not that there really been much to show these days. Hell, even Dean had driven by to pick me up one of our outings, but never had the nerve to come inside. Or maybe he was just waiting for an invitation that I never thought to offer. But the days of people coming over were long over. Shy of Tyson, who'd come over to keep me company, I'd rather not be in the house. The living room was the one place I didn't like to spend my time anymore. I hurried through it on the way to the kitchen, or from the front door to my room upstairs. My god. Then there was my room, a comfy bed, an adjoining bathroom, my desk littered with different pots of paint. Not that I used most of the colors these days. I wasn't colorblind, or at least I didn't think so. Some years ago, when I noticed mom and dad acting different around one another, some of them just started to look the same. Not I, that it didn't stop getting things in different colors. I like color. I kept a few special things I collected in the top drawer of my desk, all in various shades of blue, but these days they all look the same. Dad? I turned around, and there he was, standing in the doorway of my bedroom, looking proud of himself. Why'd you have to die? There wasn't an answer to that question, but I asked it anyway. He couldn't answer, and instead, all I could see was the face he pulled when he wasn't sure of something and worried that he was letting me down. My friends might coddle me, but I paid attention to what people felt, what they did, even they, even, they did when they were sad. Jeez, maybe not as good as Haas at picking out how people were behaving, but I knew basic things. It was a question that that was stumping me from the moment I was told. Maybe I just refused the answer in favor of just hoping Dad would end up coming home. If I wasn't broken enough, the cemetery finished me off. The only thing I can think of was from that day is how Mom looked at the tightness of Ty's hands holding mine. It's funny, given until now I hadn't considered that maybe I hadn't cried then. I knew Mom didn't, so maybe without that I just copied what she was doing because I didn't know how to process what was happening. When I woke up, I felt different. Not better, but different. Sitting up, I swung my legs over to the side of the bed and rubbed my head, grasping out another breath before pushing myself up to my feet. I put on a shirt, and in a daze, I slumped there on the floor of my room, staring at the ceiling. If I left, I'd be asked questions, and I didn't want to answer. Not I was waiting long before the door opened. Dave? Oh God, what happened? Why are you on the floor? I sat up slowly, looking at him. Orlando was nice, a great friend, and a lovely shade of yellow. I couldn't smell the cinnamon, so maybe I was still dreaming. He came to sit next to me on the floor, carefully moving my head around so he could look at me. Are you okay? I didn't have the heart to answer him, knowing that I couldn't say anything positive, leaving my answer as a gradual look towards the floor and a sigh. Well, I'm happy you're alive. Once again, I've left his comment without a reply, instead watching him stand back up and then to the hand he offered out to me. Come on, let's head downstairs. Everyone will want to, He trailed off, slowly easing his back his hand. Okay. It was all I could say. Anything more, and I was afraid that I'd start coughing. If I could ask for anything, it'd be water. But I relished the excuse to not have to say anything and wanted to hold on to it as long as I could. Reaching out for Orlando, he offered his hand again, and I took it gingerly. It was warm. He propped me up so I was standing. Dave, He sighed out, visibly torn between wanting to hug me and giving me my space. They're waiting. Each step I took felt heavy, with Orlando standing beside me. He said nothing else, instead just lingering nearby just in case. Maybe if I fell over, maybe he was sent to ensure I arrived. I didn't know. As we got closer, I could hear the others talking among themselves. From their tone, it seemed like a serious discussion, if in hushed tones. Maybe in case I overheard them, but for the most part I was processing it as noise. Then I arrived in the dining room, causing a hush to fall over the group. I looked around at my friends, lingering at the table. A chair was pulled out, but otherwise everyone was standing, looking worried. There was a tightness in my chest, lingering even as I crossed the floor to sit down in the chair reserved for me. I kept my eyes on the table, waiting for what was to happen. I caught Haas patting Orlando on the shoulder, and he approached, sighing out. Alright, there's no easy way to say this, Dave. But what happened yesterday? That's not funny. You scared the hell out of all of us, and, well, we're all lucky you're still there. I remained quiet. I opted instead to look at everyone else, finding each of them catching my eye before looking away. You make a show of going off and no one caring. Then you do it again yesterday and almost die coming back. None of us know what's going on, but you've changed since we arrived. Why? I know, this was my idea and all, but I didn't think you'd drill him so hard when you agreed, Haas. Did you not catch the part where he almost died, Roswell? It's bad enough that our phone reception has been cut for whatever reason. I hadn't thought to check my phone, but carefully my hand went to my pocket, finding that I'd left my phone upstairs. If there was no reception anymore, how we were meant to call for help from him. I don't mean anything by it, but maybe you should be a little more gentle. Look at him. Now they were talking like I couldn't understand them. My eyes went to Dean and he quickly looked away again, instead looking to Haas. Just, come on, you can be nicer about it, Haas. Fine. Dave, what's been going on? No one's told me anything, so I'm left here to figure this all out. But after yesterday, I guess it's because it's not ours to tell. And can I just say how bullshit that is? I'm sorry, but if my friend is upset, hurting, or even dying, it sucks that I just have to sit by and watch because everyone's too something to fill me in on it. Drop it, Haas. I will not. Look at him. He's sitting there in a daze. And who can blame him? He barely escapes death, gets drugged the moment he gets inside. And does anyone remember the last time he ate? Days. At least not unless he's been sneaking food around when no one else is around. Right? Sal tried catching my eye, but I shied away. He was right. Even now, I wasn't all that hungry. Am I going crazy, or no one else nearly is? Nah, am I going crazy, or is no one else nearly worried enough about this? Fine. He's sad. Well, just pick him back up. Dude, he's sad. That's the best you can do. Ty tensed up, and I tried to catch his eye. Instead, he just stared Haas down to little effect. Well, Dave, mind explaining this? In plain view of everyone, Haas set down the syringe and bottle I'd found in the woods on the table. Well? Please tell me that wasn't what fell out of Dave's pocket. But I don't understand. What? Where? Why do you have something like this? Did you go out in the woods to use it too? You didn't. Dave, talk to us. Did you try to? No, Lucky. I refuse to believe it. Dave won't kill himself. Suicide. I hung my head in shame. How far does one have to go in order to have tried? Oh my god, please. Had I even tried or just thought about it, please drop it, Dave. Drop it, Dave. Stay alive. Your friends are there. Your friends care for you. You are loved. You are cared for. Well, it sure looks like he tried. Why else would he try injecting himself with a disease? I I don't know. Have we all just been bad friends? Haas sighed out, running his hand through his mane. Don't worry, Sal. It's only Haas that's been a bad friend. Everyone else is a good friend. Only Haas is not a good friend. This can't be our fault. At least not entirely, right? I'd like to think Dave would tell us if we did something. Right, but he hasn't, so maybe this is all just a big misunderstanding? The bottle? Yes. Maybe, but he is right here. No need to talk about him like he's not there. I may as well not have been. I may as well not have been with how the words remain lost somewhere in my head. What was there to say? What possible excuse could I have had? I closed my eyes and sighed out quietly while the others continued to talk. They weren't saying much, just bickering about why I had and what I had, speculating on if I had planned to kill myself. They were worried, panicking that they were about to lose me, maybe. I just wish I wasn't already lost in my own head, that I could tell them I was alright. It's alright. Let go, Dave. Let them die. Let whatever happens, happen. Those words again. The first ones uttered by someone that sounded like Dad, and they were comforting. Maybe it was just the reassurance that things were okay. Maybe it was the permission that I was allowed to not be constantly on guard. The second though, thought. I don't know if it's thought or though, whatever. I couldn't place the voice, but it was familiar. Maybe not Dad or even Mom, but maybe more like me. I wasn't sure. I opened my eyes again, looking at the others. Tyson had Haas by the scruff, and in turn, Dean has his. They were fighting over something someone said, I think. Roswell was holding his nose, and Orlando was rubbing his back all the while. Sal acted as a barrier between them and the other three. Sorry. All at once, they stopped to stare at me, and once more my eyes went down to the table. Don't worry about it, Dave. Well, hang on. I want to know what he's sorry for. Huss, can you just, stop being so aggressive? He apologized. Leave him alone. We're not getting into this again. We can't help him if he doesn't let us in. But you can't force it. What if you just make it worse? I clutched my chest, feeling my heart beat faster from the stress. What could I say? What would make them all of this stuff? Unless you're going to explain what's wrong with him, then I'm going to keep pushing until I can latch onto something that'll let me help him. I looked to Tyson, pleading with him silently. I couldn't be the one to explain. If I did, it'd make it more real. You sure? He had his eyes on me, waiting for me to do something, hinting one way or not or the other. All it took was a nod, and he sighed out, scratching his head. Shit, I didn't think I'd have to be the one to do this, but all right. See, the thing is, I didn't need to listen to Tyson's version of it. I could remember it all vividly in my head like it happened only a couple of minutes ago. was like any other normal day, really. I just didn't think it'd become as bad as it did. Dave, mind giving me a hand for a sec? But Dad, TV. Since when TV Trump your old man? I laughed, grinning broadly as I lay back on the sofa. I don't know, TV is pretty good. Dad wandered out of the kitchen to stand in the doorway leading into the laundry room. Oh, is it now? Oh, come on, champ. Please? Well, only because you said please. We both laughed and I got off the sofa, wandering closer. I remember him throwing his arm around my shoulder as I got close enough, and we wandered into the kitchen. So what did you need, Dan? I'm trying to find the takeout menus. Wait, that's all? They should be in the bottom drawer. That's what I thought, but they weren't there. Huh? Maybe Mom moved them? She better not have moved them. She's picky enough as it is, and I had quite a collection going to make sure there was variety. It'd be nice if we got another family meal together again. Usually it's just me and Ty. Sometimes you if Mom's around, or it's just her and me. Bleh. Well, you know how work is for both of us. We love to be here, or at least I know I would. After all, how would I not like spending time with my favorite son? Dad, I'm your only son. Well, I guess so. Maybe I should adopt Tyson so you have some competition. Don't you dare. Again, we both laughed as we scoured the kitchen for the menus. I hadn't thought about how much that sentiment until now. The thought of Tyson officially becoming a family somehow felt right. Not there was any chance of that really happening now, but we had worked fine enough, and we didn't need to share a last name for it either. So what are your plans for tonight? I'm assuming the same as usual. All caught up on homework, so maybe I'll get some paper and make something. Tyson's still coming over? Was he always coming over? When is he not over, sport? Either way, I invited him over. Got stuff to ask him anyway. What kind of stuff? Guy stuff. Wow. Great, I'm a guy, so you can tell me too. Well, I stopped looking for the menu to turn to him. He was scratching his chin and thinking it over. Maybe when you're older. Great, I'm a second older now, so do I qualify? Wow. Not yet. And now? Nope. How about now? So help me, David. I will turn this car around. Once again, we broke up into a laughing fit, and almost immediately I heard Dad's telltale gasp of triumph. Score one for Dad. Menus have been found. Aren't you at work tonight? Why are you looking for the menus now anyway? What, I can't buy dinner for my favorite son and his... I tilted my head, curious. Competition? Dad. What, am I not allowed to treat you some food if I want? That's one of the perks of being a dad, I'll have you know. Not to turn down the free food, but I don't know, that seems kind of strange. Do you even know what I want to order? Nope, I can solve that by just getting everything I get. Well, if Ty's coming over, are we getting dinner for him too? Yep, can't have him going hungry now, can we? Of course not. Shouldn't I wander down and see if he's coming, or... You could just shoot him a message on your phone. But outside! Fine, but don't getting hit by a car, or talk to a stranger, or get lost, or set anything on fire. That's his house is only just down the street. Awfully suspicious that you're not really promising a police officer that you won't go causing trouble. Well, maybe I will go cause trouble. I'll put the rice recycling in the trash and say mean words to someone. Wow, you dork. Go on, go see what Tyson's doing, and I'll see you in a bit. But please don't go causing trouble. I know you won't, but you gotta do the dad thing. I know. I promise, Dan. That is just sweet. That is just cute and sweet. For just wandering down the street, I went without shoes. It was warm enough day, and I'd walked the path down to Tyson's house enough times that I could almost do it blindfolded. But like most times I went over, I had to be careful. Mostly because his dad was someone that I didn't like to be around. He smelled funny and was mostly just angry. As a chance I would have it though, Ty was just sitting outside in front of his deck. Ty! His ears perked up when he noticed me. Not that I was hard to miss, but he seemed to have been distracted with his phone. Oh, hey. What's going on? His phone went off and he checked it again before shoving it into his pocket. As for me, I leaned into the fence watching him. Apparently I'm babysitting tonight. Oh hey, it's a job, right? Although, who let you babysit? Your dad, apparently. It took a second for the comment to sink in as I huffed as Ty got up and joined me for the walk back. Is your dad not around? Worked this morning, then promptly passed out drunk after an hour of getting home. If it didn't smell so strong inside, I'd let you hang out. Tempting, but alternatively, Dad's apparently ordering us food for dinner. Oh yeah? What's he's going with? Apparently what he'd order. He admitted he doesn't know what I normally want, so he's deciding for me. Dude, even you barely know what you want unless we order from that one place that only does fried chicken. Even then, it's a pain getting you to pick what sauce packets to come with it. Wow. Dave is so picky. But there's so many. There's like 6, Dave. That's so many. Remind me to not suggest you pick up first on anything ever then. I'll get better at it eventually. I don't know why pick all the options are when all the options are good. And we're back. Oh really? Yes? His eyes went from me to Tyson, still awkwardly standing in the doorway. Oh, come in. No need to be that nervous. Hey, David. Pleasure to meet your acquaintance, but back and to you as well, Mr. Back. Okay. Hello, Dad. It took a moment of him rubbing me vigorously on the head to clue in what he meant. No, bad joke. Bad dad joke. Bad dad. I'm your best dad. I'll have you know. You're my only dad. Still counts. I closed the door behind him, and he shuffled past to stand in the middle of the living room instead of blocking the front entrance. We both watched as he then slumped down on the sofa, rubbing his face. Hey, what's the matter, bud? So something got you down? Nah, I'm fine. Well, if that ever changes, just let me know. But for now, what do my 2 favorite guys want for dinner? Ty's face lit back up, his tail thumping on the sofa. What happened to picking what you'd order? There are so many options, I couldn't decide. Okay, like dad, like son, okay. God, you two are alike. Guess you're the one that gets to pick tonight, Tyson. What will it be, champ? Dan handed over his neat stack of menus over to Tyson to look through while he turned to me. What do you think he's going to pick? I don't know. Probably from the chicken place. The one they all get it all crispy when and then dust it out with the seasoning salt, or the one that comes from the military rooster place? I can hear you now. Busted. All three of us laughed. I missed laughing that heartily, and nothing had really gotten me in the mood to do so in a long time. I'll leave you guys to it. I'm gonna get something done real quick, and I'll be back to place the order for dinner before I get ready for work. Alright, catch you in a bit. So, dinner? Hey, I'm still picking. Cut me some slack. He narrowed down to 2, the rest sitting off to the side on the coffee table. So, we're having chicken. Yes. There's a problem for there a problem with that? No, chicken is good. I like chicken. Well, good. We're getting chicken. Don't worry about the sauces. I've got it covered. Oh, well, cool. Now we just wait until Dan gets back. We headed upstairs to my room, and I collapsed on the bed while Ty took the chair at my desk. So, what do you want to do tonight? I don't know. I didn't know you were coming over until Dan mentioned it. I'm basically always over. Why would that matter? You can play a game or something, and I can watch while or we'll watch a movie or something. I don't know. Is there something you wanted to do? You could go out somewhere. Nah, I'd rather not go anywhere. Besides, if we got food coming to us, there's no point. Suppose that's true. Well, how about we start with games, watch a movie while we eat, and then go from here? I guess that works. Sure. Ty, what's the matter? God damn it. You're normally more, I remember struggling with how I wanted to phrase it without seeming mean. Granted, I should have known that even if I'd said something mean, he would just turn it back to me. Nah, I'm fine. Just thinking about stuff. Yeah? Cool stuff or guy stuff? Oh, so that's what Dad was talking about. What? Wait, he told you? Only that you two need to talk about guy stuff, and that maybe he'll tell me when I was older. Fuck, don't scare me like that. But it's not that bad, is it? I mean, you could talk to me about it if you wanted. Maybe when you're older. That's Dan's line. You can pull that on me too. Oh, too bad. I am. Suck it up. I rolled my eyes and sat up to look at him. Well, fine. Maybe I won't tell you about my guy stuff. I don't care who's... Okay. Okay. Wow. I don't care who you're fucking. Hey, first of all, you totally... Wait, what? First of all, you totally do. Second, I haven't hooked up with anyone. Yeah, that whole saving yourself shtick. You sure your buddies haven't been playing wingman for you yet? Maybe if I ask them? Maybe I just haven't met the right guy yet, too? One look at your phone would tell me if you're being a perv, though. Who's being a pervert? What? Dad leaned on the doorway to my room, looking at us. You two behaving? Yes, sir. No! Well, in that case, I'm gonna borrow one of you that is behaving while I order dinner. What, am I meant to just stay here? Yeah? We can't be that long, can we? It won't be long at all. Just gonna get our guy chat out of the way, and then we're good to go. Oh, we're doing it now. Sorry, bud. Better to chat about it while we have time, given I have work. I already made you wait for it, and I'm not gonna feel right until you get a chance to get stuff off your chest. This sounds a lot more serious than what I thought it was going to be. Maybe only a little bit. It's a good chat though. I can promise that much. Looking to Tyson, I saw him nodding, if only barely. Yeah, good talk. Shouldn't take too long, so just sit tight. They wandered off to back downstairs, and I was left puzzled as to what they went to talk about. It was something that I hadn't even thought to ask about to this day either. Other stuff just seemed more important. Or maybe it's maybe not important, but for sure distracting. I wandered over to my desk and looked at my art supplies. Nothing really drawing me as far as working on something now. So I just pulled out the square of paper and started folding. I got into origami when Orlando had given me a beginner set for my birthday one year, and liked how just by folding paper I was able to make stuff. There was a process, and while I wasn't great at it, I liked what I usually ended up with. The downside was that typically took a while for me to get anywhere following the instructions with the book I had, and before I knew it was a whole hour that had passed with me sitting there with just a single quadrupedal, if a lopsided wolf. I wonder what's taking them so long. Had a lot of guy stuff to talk about, bucko. Dinner's all ordered and Tyson's still downstairs. Promise that he's all yours now. We headed downstairs together with Dad wandering off to have a shower and get ready for work while I looked for Tyson. Tyson, where are you? There he was, sitting at the dining table with a cup of coffee, and he looked upset. Ty? He turned to look at me, flashing me a quick smile before drinking again from his cup. Hey. Sorry, didn't hear you. You doing alright? Yeah? I made you, this while I waited, I guess. What's this? An origami wolf? Looks like he got hit by a car. Wow. Rude much? Hey, not my fault. I call it like I see it. You talked to Dad about guy stuff for long enough. I'd call it sad, but it was something more than that. Worried, maybe scared. I couldn't quite place it. Yeah. I joined him at the table, and we sat for the next little bit while he finished his coffee. It was kind of nice, just waiting around, taking the afternoon slowly. Eventually, we'd have dinner, and it'd just be the same as any other day. Alright, boys, I'm off. Ty was lazing about on the sofa while Dad walked by, and they shared a mutual thumbs up before Dad went outside. Dad, wait up! He turned to me, looking much like Tyson when I found him in the kitchen. What bothered me more was that he didn't say goodbye like he normally did. Maybe it was just a sign that I was growing up, but I liked seeing him off to work. I rushed to him and hugged him around the middle. He didn't say goodbye! Oh, Dave. He put his arms around me quickly, hugging me close and pressing his nose into the top of my head. He breathed in deep, inside out, rubbing my back. I love you, kiddo. Love you too, Dad. Have a good night at work. As he eased back, I did too, but he lingered, holding the back of my head and pressing his forehead to mine. I will. And Dave? Yeah? Keep Tyson out of trouble. He said all he needed to say, and before I knew it, I was leaning on the mailbox watching as his car pulled out of the driveway and disappeared down the street. The night went as well as it could have up to a point. Tyson and I played games, ate dinner, then just lounged around waiting until Dad got back. Chances were that we'd be up until the early hours of the morning, but I was keen to see him again. Jeez. It was late, not nearly late enough, but the flashing red and blue lights clued me in to Dad coming home. I was excited. I threw the door open to greet him home, but normally he'd switch the light off before coming inside. I told myself he'd just forgotten, and that he was just eager to get back inside to see me again. I remember Dad's police buddy coming to the door. Something was wrong, but maybe it was just to say Dad had to stay late, or maybe he'd forgotten something. Maybe there was some misunderstanding. But no, Hoyt told me that Dad wouldn't be coming home. Not tonight. Not ever. There was a shooting and Dad had been hit. By the time they'd gotten him to the hospital, it was too late. The word stunned me in a way that I couldn't process the sound, the scent, or color. Tyson was there, yelling maybe, while I wandered back inside in a daze. Dad was dead. My dad was dead. Never to come home again. Never to say he loved me, or be there when I was upset, scared, or frightened. Not ever again. I whined out, tugging at my ears. It seems as though Tyson had finished telling his version of the story, and I stood suddenly, kicking over the chair that I'd been in. It's not fair. I knew they were staring, but I didn't care. I wanted to scream louder, but I just couldn't. I did. Why did he have to? My knuckles went white under the fur, under my fur, with how hard I gripped the table while I whined again. Something inside me was throbbing, breaking, cracking, or even shattering into pieces. Why? Why Dad? Why did? Yeah, why did? I think it's why did, not why Dad, right? Yeah, why did? Sorry. It was like a dam burst, and my face became wet with every tear I hadn't shed since he died. I cried, unrestrained, and it hurt, deeper than anything else that had happened over the past few days. There was a moment that I wanted to die. It would have been then, if only for the hope that I'd be able to see him again. I want my dad. I want. Tyson pulled me quickly to him and hugged me tight. It didn't stop the crying, but it gave me something to cling to. Almost to the point I was threatening to pull out his fur. It must have hurt, but he didn't move. Instead of just supporting me in his awkward hug he put us in. And I want my brother back. Words were caught in my chest, and I found myself breathless with how he held me. The group hug. Dean was next, followed by Orlando, staying quiet but throwing over his arms around us too. Then was Haas and Roswell, not nearly hugging as hard as the other two, but I could feel them near, and it was nice. It was helping. Sal was last, almost throwing his arms around everyone, and I just continued to bawl my eyes out long after I lost the strength to stand. My heart had been breaking over a year, and now it felt like I was holding what broken pieces were left in my hands, desperately hoping someone would help me put it back together. But slowly, I started to realize that I'll be okay. Maybe not right away, but maybe someday. Surrounded by the warmth of my friends, I passed out again, exhausted and drained of everything that had just happened. But at least I felt at peace. Huh? When I next opened my eyes, I was in my bedroom. I had no idea what time it was or how long I'd slept, but for the first time in a few days, I had an appetite. Sitting up in bed, I noticed a piece of paper, barely folded and placed on my bedside table. I scanned the words and smiled weakly. A note from Tyson saying that I was ready. That when I was ready, that we could talk if I wanted. The others had left notes too. Orlando and Roswell saying that they loved me. Sal and Dean expressing that they'll support me any way that I needed. And simply from Haas was an offer to talk, but punctuated with a simple apology. Wandering out of my room, it seems as though the house was quiet. I must have been out for a while. Everything in the refrigerator looked good, and I grabbed what seemed to be leftovers and shoved it down. The moment I tasted it, I recognized Orlando's cooking. It reminded me of home. Just at least recheck that we're still in Path B. Okay. I still don't know when it's gonna stop and, well, when it's gonna end and how it's going to end. I have barely any memories of Path B. But maybe not in the literal sense, but a place of comfort far away from this place. My head was still swaying from the flood of emotion that I'd been hit with earlier in the day, but for now I was doing alright. I knew, though, that I wasn't going to get off that easy. Part of me I wished I could gush about Dad and to the others so they'd understand, but Orlando and Roswell were theirs so they could possibly explain how big of a deal he was to me. If not then Tyson. He told them his side of the story after all. But more importantly, I couldn't hide what I tried to do twice. Then what happened with Jack. Most importantly, why I'd been messing with the vault. Made me realize that unless I leaned on it like a crutch, it wasn't all that useful. It wasn't really a time machine, but it has its uses. The main problem was putting it into words for the others to understand. With Oswin gone, it was going to be harder to explain things, but maybe I could count on Benson to translate, assuming he knew anything of what was going on to the extent Oswin did. But even then, he knew that Oswin was dead, so he probably had other priorities too. He wasn't in the dining room when everyone else was, and I couldn't blame him if he wanted to have some time to grieve. There was no reason I could think to be as tired as I was all the time, but maybe I'd become so used to feeling this way that I never thought it could be the reason. Not that I'd suddenly become a morning person like Sal or even Haas overnight. As I yawned, I caught some movement off to the side, Haas standing in the doorway of one of the adjoining rooms. Our eyes met for a moment before he gestured me into to the side room, heading on in without waiting. I took a seat on one of the sofas in the room, and Haas sat down just far enough away that I had my space on a separate chair. At first, he didn't say anything, seemingly thinking over his words before he broke the silence. I didn't expect it to be something that hard hitting. I sighed out, rubbing my head. Don't get me wrong. I can only imagine what it's like. I think I understand a little. Losing someone you're that close to must be rough. Yeah, it is. He nodded slowly, shifting in his chair uncomfortably. But it's not all bad, just mostly bad? What do you mean? Well, I don't know. Ty never left. Especially in that first week, he was very, I don't know, intent on making sure I was okay. Stuff like making sure I ate, bathed, and even sat outside for a bit each day to get some sun. So I have to be, so I have that to be thankful for at least. Take it from someone who, I guess, feels the same way. The fact he called you a brother gives me an idea of where his head might be. I know I do the same with for my siblings if something had happened. Maybe I've never had a brother or sister, so Tyson's the only thing I've got that's close. Haas nodded slowly, running his hand through his mane. When you woke up, did you read the note? Yeah, it was nice, I think. Something I wasn't used for sure. Oh, then that's good, right? Benson even made an effort to ask around if you were all right, so I guess we were all just that worried. If it wasn't so late, I'd probably try to explain some things, but Haas shook his head, reaching over and patting me on the shoulder. You get a pass, Dave. It's all right. Sure, we're still not really sure what happened, but please don't hide the serious stuff from us again. I sighed out, nodding. Don't worry. When I've had a bit more rest, I need to talk to Benson about something. Then let you guys know about it too. What's it about? The guy that owns the place. The one that you know, I should let Benson know, right? Right. Well, when that's done, maybe he can open the door so we can check it out. You'd want to go see what I saw? I'm not about to say that I want to go see a dead body, but I guess seeing is believing. But so long as Benson can get behind there and confirm, I guess that's good enough for me. Tiredness caught me again, and I yawned, rubbing my eyes. You should go get. You should get back to bed. I can only imagine how exhausted you are. Yeah, I probably should. But both stood up, and I knew that if I didn't get back to bed soon, I'd probably comfortably pass out the moment I found out somewhere nice to lay down. Hey, I'm sorry. Not for forcing it out of you, but also just everything. I shook my head and flashed him a quick smile. It's alright. Someone had to do it, right? Still, I'm sorry, Dave. Thanks, Haas. See you in the morning. So long as you don't sleep in the day away again. I got up to my room and sighed out, resting back on the door as I closed it behind me. I'd barely been awake for it, but the day had been long and tiring. Wandering over to my bed, I lay down in an attempt to get some more sleep. For as tired as I was, part of me wanted to stay awake, fearing another dream like the one I'd had, or maybe just waking up sad upon seeing my dad again. But despite my mind and my heart not wanting it to happen, my body needed the rest, and I slowly drifted off. Okay. So with that, I'm gonna call it a day for today. My voice is getting tired. So I hope you enjoyed and see you guys next time. Take care.